What's wrong? Who? Hey, you're lying to me. You did not.
No,
You went to,
not. He ain't lying to you.
last time you interviewed, someone said you were
Yeah.
KKK and you went to jail?
Yeah, they publicized it in the Sun Herald newspaper down here on the coast.
Oh, shit. Well, we don't need any of that drama.
I know.
But can I get some of your stuff
You
up
do
here?
whatever you want to do.
All right, man.
We need to start out of our way here.
All righty. Well, that was an interesting pit stop. I had been in Mississippi for about 4 days up to that point, and I have to say, that was definitely the most unusual conversation I had in this state. Actually, I think it was the oddest conversation I had the entire trip. If you've been paying attention, I did a huge road trip through the Deep South, and I spent some time in Louisiana and Arkansas and Alabama and here in Mississippi. I wanted to check out the culture and report on what's going on down here. In total, I spent 7 days in Mississippi, just driving around, checking stuff out. And the rule was no highways, because you don't see the good shit when you're on the interstate, right? The only way you really get to know a place is by taking the back roads. So that's what I did. And boy, did I see.
I don't care what you think about adults saying they're a trans person. We're talking about women's sports here, competition, and keeping it fair.
Because she was beaten up by a man.
In a dress.
Woo-wee! It was a beautiful day to get to Mississippi. At this point in the trip, it was early April. Most of the trip had been pleasant, but there were some storms and otherwise crummy days along the journey. But not today. And you can tell you're in Mississippi based on the radio chatter. I don't know what station that was or who that guy was talking, but it all kind of sounds the same on Mississippi Talk Radio. It's actually pretty entertaining hearing all the not-so-diverse viewpoints of the South. It is a different way of life down here. Especially in Mississippi. They don't get as much respect down here, and all the other states down here feel a little bit better about themselves with Mississippi around. There's a reason there's a saying, thank God for Mississippi. Now the whole state can be beautiful and varied in its terrain. If you crisscross the state enough, you'll see everything from large pine forests to rolling meadows and some of the prettiest coast you've ever seen. And of course, lots of crops. Farmland has been a blessing and a curse for this state. But as you probably know, this place has been dying a slow death for decades now. And there's no sign things are changing around here. They're trying to improve their image. One time the state ran a campaign called Mississippi Believe It, where they poked fun at their own stereotypes. Like, yes, we can read. A few of us can even write. Whatever. I don't know if that actually made these people feel better about themselves or not. And notably, Mississippi did move up in the U.S. news rankings from the second worst state to the third worst state, at least for now. One of the biggest issues here is health. The state has a terrible track record for almost every single health category, especially obesity and diabetes. And that brings us to food. On one of the days I was here, I went through Sunflower County, Mississippi, which is the fattest county in the nation. 45% of people in this county are considered obese, and that is a very large number. I spent an hour driving around the county. I wound up in a town called Mound Bayou. I didn't see anything really alarming or anything. I even stopped to talk to a couple people at a gas station. They weren't too plump, I'd say, right? You'll find some of the most interesting restaurants when you get back into the sticks. One day we were driving around in the middle of nowhere, and I mean middle. Mississippi's already pretty rural, but this place was backwoods. We came across a place called Benton, population hardly any. And right on the corner of this country road was a gas station with a place called Barry's BBQ Chicken and Ribs. It didn't look like it was open anymore. And I was pretty disappointed by that. I bet at one point this was a destination for a lot of hungry people nearby. The dog looked happy though. I wondered if people gave him scraps at some point. But this was all very Norman Rockwell-ish, isn't it? One morning we were in a place called Indianola, a not so bad place for Mississippi standards. I wanted to look at the B.B. King Museum, but of course it was closed. I think every single museum I tried to see on the trip was closed, except for the one in Alabama. But that's okay. Just across the street's a place called the Blue Biscuit. I gathered it was a pretty famous little place for the area based on the vibe inside. Neat place. I'd come here again and spend some time. If there's two things people in Mississippi love, it's catfish and Jesus. I think I found the crossroads right here at a place called Barry's Catfish House. It's actually a chain down here. The next day I was on some random two-laner and saw this. The small town of Isola loves catfish so much they have it on their welcome sign. But Isola ain't got nothing on Belzona, 'cause they say they're the catfish capital of the world. If you don't believe me, ask Mike. He lives here. He knows.
That's all I can say. Catfish capital of the world, bro.
I think it's great that all these little small towns take pride in being the best at something. BBQ capitals, home of the famous musicians, even catfish.
I hate catfish. It's like eating shit.
Fish are supposed to be good for you, Karen. Maybe it'll help your skin.
All the catfish we eat is probably from China anyways. And I saw on Facebook that the Chinese feed their catfish human feces.
Yes, I agree that would be very gross. But you can't believe everything you see on Facebook. I thought we already went over that. And that catfish cross wasn't the only large cross I saw. They were all over. 'Cause in case you don't know, religion is a big deal here, mister. They aren't in the Bible Belt. They're the damn buckle. I mean, even in Walmart, you're reminded of Jesus. Go into a Walmart any day of the week down here, and folks are in there in their church duds. They start them at an early age in Mississippi. Kids are praying before meals as soon as they can talk. They're also very polite down here, the kids are. Lots of yes ma'ams and fixin' to and might coulds. Might could get a whoopin' if you don't mind your pappy. Anyways, 80% of the people here say they're highly religious, and this is the most religious state of all, and you probably knew that. It's mostly various shades of Baptist down here. Pentecostal or fundamentalist or even free will churches where people speak in tongues. Believe me, I wish I could have seen all of that, but I didn't. Down here, they just don't understand you not believing in God because it's something they've been taught their entire lives not to question.
The separation of church and state is optional in Mississippi.
That's right, Mappy. It's not just the most religious state, it's the most conservative state, too.
In Mississippi, evolution is evolution. And they believe gays can pray their gay away.
Okay, I think we've pushed it a little bit too much. Thanks, Mappy. Bye, Mappy.
Hey!
It's a fine crawfish, already boiled from your favorite drive-thru for about $3.99 a pound.
King says a platter of crawfish is ideal for watching the Sweet 16 this weekend. I'm Brooke Thorington.
I saw all the various degrees of city life during my time in Mississippi. Right now, we're in a place called Hattiesburg, population 48,000. I heard this was a nice place, but I wasn't so sure as I entered the city from the south side of town. Looked like any other fallen on hard time place I'd seen in this state. But downtown isn't so bad, I suppose. Hattiesburg's a college town, home to the University of Southern Mississippi, which is where Brett Favre spent his days, which is interesting because he was accused of scheming welfare money out of the hands of many of his former Mississippians. Anyways, after visiting Hattiesburg, I learned that whenever somebody says somewhere is nice in Mississippi, you should put that into perspective. I guess this is nice for Mississippi standards. I hear they're trying to fix the place up again after all the manufacturing jobs left town. But there's a lot of drugs and street gangs here today. Sounds like most of America, though, doesn't it? But I did like Tupelo, population 38,000. I wasn't into stopping in big-ish cities, but I saw the exit, so I made the right and headed into town. I'm glad I did. Tupelo has a really nice looking downtown. Huh, everyone? A very vibrant downtown area. Some say it's one of the best small cities to live in Mississippi. And traffic in Mississippi? What? Tupelo's not very exciting, but it sure is cheap. Homes here are about $200K each. And yes, of course, I'm aware this is where Elvis was born. This is Elvis's birthplace, right there in that simple home. Goes to show you that anyone can come from anywhere. With enough faith and determination, we can all accomplish greatness. There's a whole area on the north side of Tupelo devoted to Elvis. Besides his birth home, you can see a church that I think he attended, and an outhouse where he pooped. Not sure what that's all about. And of course, Elvis's old car. Things were so much simpler back then, weren't they? I did wind up seeing other big cities in Mississippi, like Biloxi, which is sort of okay, and the coast, which is wonderful. I spent 2 whole days in the state capital of Jackson, which is 2 days I'll never get back. Probably the worst place I've ever been to. And I've been to a lot of places, people. But how about a good small town? Okay, this is Little Euphora, Mississippi, home to not even 2,000 people. I saw a lot of small towns that have been forgotten about in Mississippi, so it was nice to see a happy little small town. One time in a small town, I had to use the bathroom, and I went into their local market called Super Value. And let me tell you, this place reminded me of the grocery stores I see in third world countries when I go to the Caribbean on vacation. I'm not judging. Everyone's super nice there. It just had that vibe. But I think the saddest cities I saw were in the Mississippi Delta. If you're not familiar with the Delta, it's a region on the western side of the state that's about the same size as Connecticut. This is where all the cotton was grown during the Civil War, and where times have fallen hard. The whole region's considered as one of the poorest and most behind the times of anywhere in the country. Here's a map of where the slaves lived, overlaid with our poorest counties. See a connection? Where we are now is the 4th poorest county in the nation, where houses earn $22,000 a year. The people aren't educated, and there just aren't a lot of opportunities. I think I read that Mississippi has the most houses in the country without a computer or internet, too. The whole place never really recovered from the end of the Civil War. Now, it's debatable whether you can blame the government or the residents for this region's setbacks. But I can say that even though it's bad based on economic statistics, it's not dangerous, it's not filthy, and I don't think it's even miserable. I saw a lot of smiles. I think these people are fine just the way they are. One thing I just can't figure out is, these people complain they live in a food desert, like there's no healthy food options anywhere. Well, you live in the most fertile part of the country. Why don't you just grow your own food? I don't know. Mississippi, what a pity. It's a state with so much love and hope for everyone. Mississippi, what a pity that a place like this can be so sad for anyone. So you should come enjoy the view. There's a place right here for you. They have the faith that they'll get on through one day at a time. I did a whole video on the struggles that are happening here in the Delta region. You can watch that if you want to. But I don't want to bring all sad news from the Delta, though. There's a lot of positive stuff to talk about. Like one day I was in a place called Leland and drove right past the Kermit the Frog Museum. The guy that invented Kermit the Frog lived here. That's cool. And Cleveland is supposed to be the best place in the Delta. Here's what that looks like. It's a fairly decent looking town, huh? I could see some positivity coming out of Cleveland, Mississippi. If you didn't know, I'll tell you. The Delta is most famously known as being the home of the blues. This is Clarksdale, Mississippi, which was kind of the center of the blues in the world at one point. Today it's pretty run down, but there's still a lot of style here and a ton of history. That's the Delta Blues Alley Cafe, where a lot of famous musicians played. But I went to Ground Zero. It's a total juke jive jumping place that's in the same style as it always was. Here I had a plate of BBQ on a paper plate with plastic utensils and a Miller Lite. Come on now, people, you know I ain't fancy. And on the bill that night was none other than blues legend Watermelon Slim, who played a lot of his old hits.
Get out of my life, woman. You don't love me no more.
I even went backstage with Watermelon Slim and we talked for a while. Totally wonderful guy. He actually talked so much that his handlers kept coming back there to tell him, stop talking to that handsome, famous YouTube guy and come out and sing some more damn songs, wouldn't you? Mississippi Delta, why is this such an important part of the country?
Well, because the people that made music there were really, how would you say, directly descended from the music that you would hear in Gambia or Senegal or any of the places really south of the Sahara, sub-Sahara. Now, up north of the Sahara, it's a different thing entirely. But down there in Kenya and Tanganyika and places like that, that's where the music comes from. Stay right there and I'm going to show you how this, what actually came over from Africa.
Oh.
This is an Imbira. Some people call it a kalimba because this is one of the commercial variety. I've got a couple of others, but this, you can hear. And it wasn't just for entertainment then. It was bring rain or stop rain, depending on how they used it.
Why is blues music so important?
Why is it so important? Because with the exception of a few things like classical music, blues is the basis for near everything you hear on the radio. And everything you get in, whether it be country or rock and roll or punk, even blues, put a back on it all. One of the reasons that blues is important now is because all the people who are really hardcore church people may still be saying, "Oh, that's the devil's music. La musique du diable." You know, it's not. It's just it's existential rather than thinking somewhere in the future. I hope there's an afterlife. I hope I'm something when I get to the top of the stairs. I jump off into something. But I don't know that. It's I only have hope. That's salvation for me, is to keep on going. They're at the post. Thank you very much, Bob.
The night I was in town, I stayed at the Shack Up Inn, which is probably the most unusual place I've ever slept. I would even call this a hotel. I don't know what you call it. The whole complex is made up of these old sharecropper shacks. They go out to some historical site and literally move these buildings from their original location, and they bring them here. Unbelievable. Here's the courtyard. They have this common area where the bands play with a real bar inside. And oh, did I wish I was here when the place was jumping. But I missed it. I always seem to miss it. This is my kind of place. I'll tell you what, this is not a place for people who want fancy. It's like you're stepping back in time. I have a piano in my room. No telling how many famous musicians and travelers have been in this room. Man, oh man. Cadillac. That's me having a beer, just like they did on their porch in 1890 whatever. I think the second coolest place I stayed on the entire southern road trip was actually the next night at the Belmont Plantation, just right down the road. That was a real treat. There's only one plantation left over in this whole region after all the pillaging that took place after the Civil War. And it's this one. It was built in 1857 by a rich family from Kentucky. They didn't measure their land by acres back then. No, this place sat on land that was 9 miles by 6 miles big. That's how much cotton they grew here. That's a lot. Here's the place where the slaves slept. We're less than a mile from the Mississippi River, right out there at the end of that driveway. They say from this porch they'd watch the troops march up the driveway, and you never knew what they were going to do. They might come in and have dinner, or camp outside and get drunk and party, or maybe they'll come inside and steal everything and take the women and burn the place down. You just didn't know. I bet those wealthy people stood right here and looked out over their domain and thought, it doesn't get any better than this. Look at my kingdom. And guess who joined me for an afternoon drink and conversation? Delta historian and author Hank Burdine. Hank and I sat outside in the grass and talked about the history of the Delta and all. I showed that interview in another video, but here's a short little excerpt.
The situation in the Delta now, we've got a great ecotourism business being built back on the blues. You got Clarksdale, which is based on the blues, and it's making a very strong resurgence. Greenwood had a real big kick when Viking came in there and started all of its industries. Indianola has the B.B. King Museum. Cleveland has the Grammy Museum and Dockery Plantation, which is supposed to be the birthplace of the blues. That's where Charlie Patton came from. So the blues resurgence is really coming back strong around here.
Oh, and guess what? The place is haunted. Like haunted. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Okay, I kind of am. I had a lot of fun here and wished I could have stayed for more than one night. I walked around the place for hours looking at things and wishing I could have been spooked. It's just so neat. This is how the slave owners, super rich people lived back in the day, with all their fancy furniture and art and all. Nighttime was the best, especially with the storm outside. You know I walked all around trying to spot me a spirit. No ghost. Ghost? Where's the ghost? Are you a ghost now? Ghost, where are you? So springtime means tornado season in the southern states. And it's really scary. You never know when or where they'll hit. You're just driving around and you come across an area like this one, just outside of Tupelo, where a tornado had just hit. Maybe it was earlier in the day. Maybe it was a week ago. I don't know. And I saw this all over. I talked about it in other videos. But what I saw when I stumbled into Silver City, Mississippi was just tragic. We were just driving along on our way to check out some old history museum, and we came across a town that was just wiped away, like gone. We had heard about a tornado that had hit a town in the area, but we didn't know we were going to see it like this. So we pulled over and I got out and walked around for a while. The tornado had just come through like a week before. There were 217 people here before the tornado hit, and I doubt there will be very many people here for a while. I think 26 people died in this storm. This was the whole town right here, right in front of me. Now there's nothing left. There's nothing left. Looking for people to talk to. There's nobody around. I wandered around and I eventually found a family of 4 that was huddled in a house in the back of town that wasn't too badly damaged. I spent some time talking to them. Can you tell me, do you know what the next step is? Like what they're gonna do to help you guys?
Well, the next step they supposed to be trying to get us some houses to stay in. So I hope they come true. So that, I don't know what else they're gonna, next step would be cleaned up and everything, but they can get the houses put in, whatever they're gonna do, trailers or whatever.
So they're coming in to put trailers in? Temporary?
Temporary, that's what I heard now, how they go. So I don't know.
When's that gonna happen?
We don't know. We don't know nothing. So they get all this stuff cleared up out the way and everything. A truck's supposed to come in sometime or another and get it all out. So that's all I know.
So trailers are gonna help you guys get it cleared, then put some trailers in for you to live. Are you gonna rebuild your homes?
Yeah, so they said they're gonna rebuild, but I guess for temporarily, so I don't know what they're gonna do.
Do you have insurance to pay for your house, or who's gonna pay for your house
I got FEMA.
Okay.
Yeah, so FEMA gonna pay for it.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. What can you tell me how you rode the storm out?
Went down the hallway and sat on the floor. Go up, me and my sister and my grandbaby head up. Right on out till everything went over. Then we came back up front, getting everything out. And went up to my niece's house. Then Friday night. Yeah.
Have you guys ever experienced anything like this?
Never in our life. No, Lord, nothing like this.
How long did you have to prepare?
We hadn't but for one day, that night.
So, how long before the tornado came that you knew it was coming?
About about 15 minutes.
You had like 15 minutes?
I stayed up there in a trailer, and when I said I wasn't gonna get out, I'm gonna stay here and ride it out. But my daughter them and my nephew them, they kept, and so they came and got me. About 15 minutes before I got from up in there and got here, it hit her house. And they told me it blew my house away. I was in a mobile home.
And your mobile home was down there and it's gone?
It's gone. Yeah.
So what are you going to rebuild your?
I'm trying to get a mobile home.
Okay, like same place? Or going to rebuild right here?
In the same place.
Is this community?
It's just family. That's my nephew stay there. That's my brother stay there. This my sister stay here. And them cousins and, family all up in there.
So you know a lot of people in here?
We know everybody. Everybody know everybody.
Is that going to help rebuild? Because you all are going to be working together to rebuild everything? That'll help. That you know each other.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? What do you think the next step is going to be for you?
Hopefully to rebuild and come home.
Did they tell you like how long it was going to be?
No. No, sir, they didn't. Just ready to rebuild and come home.
Well,
no place like home.
Mm-mm. And you weren't here. You came home to this. You were gone?
Yes.
What did you think when you came down the street and saw what had happened?
Tears just started falling. I couldn't believe what had happened. 40 years living here and never thought not one tornado had hit, and this one just took everything.
That tornado tore up the house. Tore my house.
What's next? Are people coming to help you guys? Like, is there a relief set up? Like, what are you guys going to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Try to wait on FEMA or somebody try to help.
Who's coming to help?
FEMA.
Do you know when they're coming, or?
I don't really know. Yeah.
Where are you gonna live for right now?
That's my niece.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Yeah.
The whole politics, religion, race thing going on in Mississippi is so deep and troubling that it would take a whole video to talk about it. But the Cliff's Notes version is Mississippi had the most lynchings of any other state and the most resistance to civil rights. It seems like a long time ago, but it really isn't. I mean, the last school to desegregate in the country was in Mississippi, and that happened in 2016. And the Confederate symbol, they just removed that from the state flag like last year. So, yeah. Of course, you'll see tons of people flying the original flag all over this state, saying they want to preserve their heritage. And that's what made me pull over that morning. Remember this place? I didn't know what to expect when I walked up to the porch. I mean, they were flying a KKK flag and a Confederate flag and every single Trump flag you can think of. I figured maybe they'd let me get a little video and I'd be on my way. Nope. They invited me in and told me a lot of stuff. The short story is, the guy who runs the place sells merch on the side of the highway. It's all the stuff that pro-white, pro-national, pro-conservative people would buy. The guy who runs the place told me that he was arrested a while ago on false meth production charges, but he thinks he was singled out because he was flying the Confederate flag outside of his place, which drew the attention of the headquarters of the Mississippi KKK, which came down and threw a big party here, and they even gave the guy a KKK robe, which he never wore. He told me all that stuff and a bunch more. And his wife told me even more stuff.
It was the Klan and wanted to get rid of them. So
They had a 100-foot flagpole cut down out there.
all they did was manage to put the Klan underground, which makes them worse than what they were if you can see them coming at you, you know. But
Jeez.
yeah. We have black customers, we have Chinese, we have we're not, it's not a racist thing.
Well,
not for us. Some people might do it that way, but we don't see it that way. We see it as history.
Yeah.
And of course, the whole world was young when we had slaves and we didn't know any better because they were bringing them to us saying that's what they are. You know, ignorance isn't blessed, but it was ignorant. You know, you have to be educated on everything, otherwise you're going to repeat yourself. So, but yeah. Yeah, well, they wanted the flag down because he had a 100-foot flagpole out there with like a 40-foot flag on it.
Oh.
They wanted the flag down because he would have flag-raising parties.
What flag was that?
The rebel flag.
Like the KKK flag?
No, the rebel
Oh,
flag.
the Confederate flag.
The Confederate flag.
And they wanted that down and they took it.
Well, what happened was because the KKK, of course, showed up at the parties, and so they made it Klan capital of Mississippi, which he wouldn't let them wear their robes or anything like that because that's not what it was. They made him an honorary member and gave him a robe, which stayed in his closet, you know. But yeah, every time he had a flag raising, the highway patrol would show up and shit because they thought crap was going to happen. And he's got interracial grandchildren, okay?
So he got thrown in jail then?
Oh yeah, they trumped up a charge that he was making methamphetamine. Never found any methamphetamine because he had a felony with an ounce of pot from Florida.
Well, but the flag's flying today.
Yeah, we got the state and the battle flag up.
But why you can fly today, but it couldn't fly before?
Before it couldn't because of the publicity got with the Klan showing up for the flag. So because it was like a big party. He would have bands out here that would play. If they wanted alcohol, they brought their own alcohol. It was like a big picnic. There were kids. There were grown.
Too much, Mississippi. Too much. I sat up on the porch at the Belmont Plantation watching that storm roll in that night. You could feel the history in the air. It was all a lot to take in. Sure, there's plenty of poverty and racism and lack of opportunity here, but Mississippi is what you make of it. The cost of living's perfect, and there's great people here, and generally most people have good morals. I can say this. After driving around California for a month and Mississippi for a week, I think I'd rather live here than there. And I think a lot of you would agree with me. Well, I am from a town where everybody knew me by name. I could be all alone and they would come and they would ask me to play. We all knew God and we were all the same. There was no reason to be ashamed. We're not really bad, we just need a plan. We're Mississippi. We all knew God and we were all the same. There was no reason to be ashamed. We're not really bad, we just need a plan. We're Mississippi. We're Mississippi. Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. And I can also help you find your new house, too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home, too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.